All right, hey everyone, this is Rudy. It's April the 9th, the year 2017, and I don't recall if I have ever read this Larry Pratt article into YouTube, and in the event it disappears, we need to have some record of it somewhere, and let's just read it so that it will be recorded. It's on freedomoutpost.com, not to be confused with Gary Hunt's outpost-of-freedom. So I think this is a separate website, but it has a very similar name. In any event, When Justice is Blind, the story of Francis Schaeffer Cox, Larry Pratt, September the 8th, 2014. Francis Schaeffer Cox is a young father of two who has become a political prisoner. Every prisoner says he is innocent, right? Sometimes, especially in the federal penal system, they really are. One of the ways any court can railroad an accused is for the prosecutor to withhold exculpatory information. When this happens, it means that the trial is not about seeking justice, but carrying out the agenda of the prosecutor and or the judge. Back in 2008, Cox had been speaking around the state and ran for the state legislature. He was even invited to speak outside of Alaska, where Cox and his family lived. His platform was simple. The government needs to follow the Constitution because it's the law. Frankly, the ruling class does not cotton to that message, and if the one articulating it is seen to be more and more popular, the messenger is viewed as a threat that must be dealt with by any means. During this time, Cox had organized a Second Amendment network dubbed the Liberty Bell. We should all be part of something similar. If someone sees or is involved in a troubling interaction between the police and a citizen, there is always a volunteer available to whom the call is routed. The nature of the encounter is then disseminated to the Liberty Bell network, and people converge on the location as quickly as possible, all poised to record what is happening. A lot of effort went into attempts to set up Cox. He had a conversation on a military base, and when the cops came to get the video, they indicated that they were going to try to grab his kid on a phony charge. On another occasion, Cox was taking notes of a situation, and a cop came up from behind and struck him. Had Cox done that to the cop, he would have likely been charged with assault. The state efforts to railroad Cox having failed, they were dismissed. The feds soldiered on. A confidential informant, hoping to curry enough favor with the feds that he might have charges dropped against him, the guy had felonies on his record, tried to entrap Cox. He suggested that if anything happened to anyone in the militia group Cox had organized, that they retaliate 2 for 1. One of the exculpatory statements not presented to the jury had Cox reject the informant's suggestion, saying to the effect that my object is to proceed as Gandhi, not as Rambo. Schaeffer Cox, 30, is a husband and father of 2 young children. He is a political activist. In 2008, ran for Alaska House of Representatives. His platform was simple. The government needs to follow the Constitution because it's the law. Cox argued that when the government disregards the law and tramples on others simply because they are powerful enough to do so and get away with it, it hurts them as a nation. He went on to point out that the sort of heavy-handed disregard for their basic obligations cost the government their stability at home and their credibility abroad. His message was well received by the people and local government. After the election, Schaeffer Cox spent time traveling and gave speeches outlining a peaceful way to reclaim individual liberty. His message continued to warn the people attending his speeches that the federal government's current behavior was unsustainable. He contended that the responsibility would fall back onto the shoulders of the people who had created the government and let it run off its rails. As Schaeffer Cox continued to give speeches, the crowds grew. This caught the attention of the federal government. Cox now had the world's most powerful government as an enemy. For the next several months, Cox and his family now had the force of the federal government against them. The FBI played a key role in trying to provoke Cox, and when those attempts failed, the FBI began tearing apart the family. What turned out to be a nightmare, continues Schaeffer Cox, is currently serving a 26-year sentence. The charges the federal government came up with range from conspiracy to murder federal workers to weapons charges. He is being held in a Communications Management Unit, CMU, also known as Little Guantanamo, in Marion, Illinois. Schaeffer Cox is an example of the tyrannical grip the federal government has on the people and their thoughts. There is no injured party. There was no crime. At what point has the overreaching grip of the federal government gone too far? If someone does not think the way the federal government wants them to, or challenges the policies, the person is considered a threat. The importance of this case is critical for the whole of humanity. When a government decides what we can eat, what we must buy, and what we are allowed to think, we no longer have life. Thomas Jefferson wrote, "To preserve the freedom of the human mind and freedom of the press, every spirit should be ready to devote itself to martyrdom. For as long as we may think as we will and speak as we think, the condition of man will proceed in improvement." Thomas Jefferson to William Green Munford, 1799. We recognize not everyone can contribute financially. Here's what you can do to help. Share this website often amongst your friends, family, and groups you belong to. Become familiar with how you can take back your individual liberty by viewing the speech Schaeffer Cox delivered to a group in Hamilton, Montana. Plan 241 proposed documentary looks to prove innocence. Source. Don't forget to like Freedom Outpost on Facebook, Google+, and Twitter. You can also get Freedom Outpost delivered to your Amazon Kindle device here. All right, well, this appears to be the Larry Pratt article. We praise God. I wish Larry Pratt would offer an updated statement on Schaeffer Cox. It's been nearly 3 years. But in any event, thank God for the article that he did write. And if you guys can get Larry Pratt's attention, we ask him to provide even a more updated statement so that we can promote that as well. God bless every one of you and have a great day.